5 tight ends I'm looking to bench heading into week 12. The first guy's Jared Cook of the New Orleans Saints. And Cook here, he's been struggling the last few weeks. He's a guy I've had on my drop list this week as well. So check that video out if you want 5 tight ends to drop. And Cook, he's been dropped in 5% of leagues now. His ownage from 84% to 79%. With Taysom Hill at quarterback, I just don't like what Cook's going to do. And now in the last 3 weeks, Cook, he's had 4.6 point fantasy games. So Cook, 3 points in week 9, 0 in week 10, and week 11, 1.5. So Cook, the production's not there. I don't see the production going up. And this week he's got a tough matchup versus the Denver Broncos, who give up the 10th least amount of fantasy points to tight ends. And Cook, he had a plus matchup last week versus Atlanta that give up the most points to tight ends, and he didn't do nothing with it. And this week I don't see him doing much again. So he's a guy, in my opinion, who's easy to bench this week. So bench Cook. The second guy is Robert Tonyan of the Green Bay Packers. I told people to go pick him up again this week on the waiver wire, and some did. He went up 6%. But Tonyan, it seems like an every other week type of thing for him. And last week a touchdown saved his day, or he would have had a mediocre 9-point fantasy day. This week he's got the Chicago Bears. It's a division matchup. It's a tough game. And the Bears' their defense is good. The offense is the problem for the Bears. And this week I don't see Tonyan getting a touchdown. So I'm going to say he's only going to get 6-7 fantasy points and be worthy to be on the bench this week. So I'm benching Tonyan. The third guy is Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles. It looks like Zach Ertz will most likely come back this week for Monday Night Football. And Goedert, he'll take the seat back a little in this one versus the Seattle Seahawks. Because if Ertz is back, they got Richard Rodgers as well, who's been getting more catches, it seems like, anyway, than Dallas got it the last few weeks. But now with Ertz back in the equation, too many tight ends over there. Carson Wentz, he's not a great quarterback as it is. And Seattle gives up the 4th least amount of fantasy points to tight ends. So Goedert, I just don't like the matchup. And I don't like that Ertz and Richard Rodgers are looming over there also in Philly. So I'm going to bench Goedert. The fourth guy is Austin Hooper of the Cleveland Browns. I said to drop him last week and bench him last week. And I'm going to say it again here. Hooper's still owned in way too many fantasy leagues at 66%. Since he came back from the injury, he's had 2 points and then 6 last week versus a weak Philly team with 3 catches, 33 yards. I know the weather could have been a factor or whatever. This week he versus Jacksonville. On paper, it's a good matchup. They give up the 7th most fantasy points to tight ends, but I just don't see Hooper having a great game in this one. And I could see him having 5 to 6 points at best as well. So Austin Hooper, if he don't get a touchdown, he's another tight end that's not productive. And this week, I don't think he finds the end zone versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I'm putting him on the bench. And the fifth and final guy is Hayden Hurst of the Atlanta Falcons. Hurst with the old goose egg last week in week 11 versus the New Orleans Saints. Hurst, no points, only on 2 targets. And this week he versus Vegas, that gives up the 10th least amount of fantasy points to tight ends. And Hurst, he's not going to get a 0 again, but I don't think he's going to have a great game. I think he's only going to have 7 to 9 points, which isn't great. But if Julio Jones is out, that could change and more targets going Hurst's way. But he's a guy I can't trust. After a guy coming up with no points on the day, I don't know what he's going to do. And he's a guy better off on my bench this week, in my opinion. So that's 5 tight ends I'm going to bench heading into week 12.